Okay, greetings, everybody. We're on the 9th day of Sivan, 5775. And today we're going to be discussing the tribe of Levi, the Levites. Question being, how come of all the tribes, the biggest tribe we know was, of course, Yehuda. And the smallest tribe was the tribe of the Levites. So this definitely raises many eyebrows in the world of the holy rabbis, Chachamim, Zichronam Livracha. And we're going to discuss the fact. And we, Bezrat Hashem, will receive a lot of encouragement when we learn the details about this very unusual fact about the tribe of Levi being so small. Before that, just one point. We're 2 days after the giving of the Torah, and on one leg, it's really important for us to realize an amazing principle. If we look at the world that we live in, we know that the world is called Olam. Olam means to be hidden, which means Hashem created a world in which He purposely hid Himself. Our job is to find Hashem. That's why they asked the Sfat Emet. Where is Hashem? And his answer was not the typical, well, Hashem is everywhere. You know, like there's a song by, who's that? By the, what are those guys' names? Uncle Moshe. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. Up, down. I guess you guys didn't have a childhood. Oh, there's one good guy. There's one good guy. I guess you guys didn't have a childhood.
He's still in his childhood.
So am I. Anyways, folks, that wasn't his answer. He gave a Gewalt answer. Sfat Emet says Hashem is everywhere Hashem is where a person lets them in. Where a person lets Hashem in. That's where Hashem is. So the world, Hashem put up this smoke screen in the world. Now, this is a tremendous principle. When Hashem wants to bring tremendous things to the world, there is no way out but to put up a smoke screen in order to bring that tremendous light into the world. For example, if there's a tremendous light, I got to put on my Ray-Ban. Got to put on my Ray-Ban sunglasses. You know, if there's an eclipse, you better put on those rays, those sun rays, or else you're going to get hurt. So that's the idea. When there's too much light, you have to have you have to make some kind of intervention that you will not be blown away. So listen to this, and always remember this. We don't realize it, but can somebody tell me when the holiday of Shavuot is? Any answers? I just want a simple question. When was it?
50 days after.
When was it?
50 days after Pesach.
50 days after Pesach. Okay, any other answers?
50 days after was the Mitzrayim.
50 days of the Mitzrayim. Any other answers? Well, if we open up the Holy Torah, we will find out that all holidays have dates, except for one holiday. And that holiday is, of course, Matan Torah, when Hashem gave us the Torah. There is no date. Now, the truth of the matter is, when was the Torah given? Good question. There's a dispute within the Talmud. There's a dispute when it was given. When is Shavuot? Very good question. It could be on the 5th of Sivan. Could also be on the 6th of Sivan. It could also be on the 7th of Sivan, depending on what happens, Bezrat Hashem, when we will decide the months by the Supreme Court, not so Supreme Court,
High Court.
Not by the low court that we're talking about today, but the real Sanhedrin. Sometimes the month of Iyar could be 2 days, sometimes it could be 1. Sometimes Sivan could be 1 day, sometimes it could be 2 days. So therefore, it's a very unusual answer. We really don't know when the giving of the Torah was. Such an important day. The most important day of the year, we don't know when it was. Why is that? Because when a Kadosh Baruch Hu brings in the tremendous light of giving the Torah, there has to be a smoke screen. There has to be a smoke screen, because if there's not, we cannot receive the light of the Torah. So therefore, there is no date to the holiday of Shavuot. Unbelievable! I can't believe everyone's still sitting here. I haven't flown out the windows here.
Is that a parallel concept to the Ma'at Banes, or different
No,
concept?
no. It's a person is in danger because it's just like physical. If a person goes out and looks at something, a clips, for example, they always tell you have to put on special glasses to look at it, because if not, you're going to be physically injured. If a person looks at the light, straight on, he's going to be physically injured. When a person gets up in the morning, it takes us a while to get used to the light. When we turn off the light, all these things, it takes us a while to get used to these things. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu put up a smoke screen, more so. Right? It says something very unusual. It says that when Moses went up to Mount Sinai, Hashem puts on a cloud on Moses. What is that, I mean, once I was walking down Westwood. I don't know if you guys know where Westwood, California, Westwood, Los Angeles, but that's a place to be on Saturday night. As, if you're going to be anywhere, you want to be on Westwood Boulevard. So once I was going down there, and some girl came up to me, and she said, "Hey, you, get off of my cloud. Hey, you, get off of my..." I see you guys aren't really musical. You have not a lot of musical leanings here. But anyways, that's what she told me. "Hey, you, get off of my cloud."
Before their time. Right?
It's way before, yeah. Where's Mick Jagger when you need him? Down. I was just at a trial. I had finally beat the system. I had a trial for 1,000 shekel. They gave me a ticket for parking in a spot of a handicapped person. So I wrote letters and didn't work. And then I said, "Well, you have to go to court because that's the only choice." I went to court, and anyways, I see the judge. He has like this American accent. So I'm listening to it's not my turn, so I'm listening to my MP3, listening to a Shiur Torah. So he says, "What are you listening to, the Rolling Stones?" Okay? "Hey, what are you listening to, the Rolling Stones?" I said, "No, I'm not such a big Mick Jagger fan." He said, "Well, you better be careful, because I am." I am, yeah. I said, "Well, this is the kind of judge we need." Here comes the judge. That's the kind of judge we like. Anyways, folks, what is Moses doing behind a cloud? What does that mean exactly? It's like, I don't know if you guys ever go to concerts, or, like, first when the group comes on, this big, like, smoke comes, and then he comes out of that cloud, whoa, yeah. And then, boom, the concert begins. What is going on? But this is not a concert here. Anyways, it's the same concept. When Moses goes up to Mount Sinai, there is no way for him to receive the Torah unless he's being protected by a cloud. When there are clouds, we are protected from the light. It helps us out. It helps us from the heat. It helps us from overheating. So that is exactly what Moses was doing. He was behind the cloud. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because first of all, it's important to remember, once again, first step, the world in Hebrew is olam, which means hidden. He'alem. He's hidden. Hashem created a world and then hid himself. What does that mean? It means that there's no way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could show himself in the world, because we would not be able to survive 1 second. It would be too much. Okay? It would be too much for us. The light. I have a good friend of mine who at a very, very young age became involved heavily in Kabbalah, in the secrets of the Torah. And unfortunately, because he wasn't ready for it, there's opinions in the Rambam that you have to be a certain age, 40 years, and you have to have a certain amount of learning under your belt. It's not that they came out of this from nowhere. This friend of mine, unfortunately, for life, he was affected. He was affected in his mind because there's too much light. It's called, in Kabbalistic terms, it's called Shvirat HaKelim. When you have too much light and the vessel is not able to handle it, it breaks the vessel. That's us. So that's our number one step. The world itself, Hashem has to hide himself in order for us to be able to make it here, survive. Number two, when Hashem wants to bring the Holy Torah, he has to present a smokescreen, and that's why we don't know when the giving of the Torah really was, and that's why there is no date in the Torah of when the Torah was given. It could be on a few different days. Why? The smokescreen has to be created. Moses goes into a cloud before going to receive the Torah. He cannot receive the Torah unless he's protected by this cloud. Number 4 principle. We talked about for 10 classes. I should get some reward here. I don't know how many, I know that when I was a kid, Casey and the Sunshine Band, they had part 3. But 10 parts of a class, that must deserve some kind of Guinness Book record. 10 parts. When we did Samson in the state of Israel, the beginning of redemption. Those that caught the Shiur, the same story. It's an unbelievable concept. In order for us to bring the beginning light of the redemption, there's no way to do it, because it's too great. Just like the giving of the Torah. The same thing also with the Malchut, with the kingdom, with the redemption of the Jewish people. It cannot come down in a regular manner because it's too much light. So what's the smoke screen? The smoke screen is the state of Israel. Bow, bow, bow. The smoke screen is these Erev Rav, leaders leading us. The smoke screen is the judicial system in this country. It's the anti-Torah. That is exactly HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he wants to bring the beginning light of redemption, he cannot do it through regular righteous methods, as we discussed in length in many of those parts of the 10-part class. But just for us right now, it's an amazing thing. When a tremendous light comes to the world, there's a need for that smoke screen, for sunglasses, for some kind of partition, in order not to be affected, by the tremendous rays. When you take an X-ray, what do they put on you?
Leather jacket.
Yes.
Leather jacket? I don't know. In my days, leather jackets were like the blood in the Crips. Or Fonzie, or the
I'm not so sure they use leather anymore, but they use some
there's some heavy duty. You wouldn't want today to go around with that sucker. You know what I'm saying? You just melt. Oh my God! Just trying to stay alive.
Now, Rabbi, I know Rav Kahana brought down that there was really 2 ways to bring a redemption. One
Right.
could actually be through miracles. So.
For sure.
Would it be possible for Hashem to reveal himself in that way if we were deserving?
Once again, if
the Jews were at that level?
Well, he does.
We have to understand, as we discussed in the Shiur, we discussed about the beginning of the redemption, the beginning of the process has to be brought down by evil, by people that they are not kosher kind of people, because of the fact that we cannot bring the redemption in regular means, because the spiritual world that Hashem has set up in this world, not just our being, but their spiritual world, they would never in a million years allow it to go by. But, once again, the higher level we are, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu was able, okay, after the receiving of the Torah, he was able to speak, so to speak, he was able to converse with Hashem, panim el panim. And other prophets had to have more devices in order to, they received it through indirect means. Yeah. So therefore, once again, if we were on a level, we could definitely receive a lot of the light, okay? But to some degree, there would have to be still a smoke screen, or else we disappear here, and there's no free will anymore. Well, so that smoke screen.
There's a reflection between like Pesach versus Purim.
Yeah.
And Pesach, they say, that only Hashem's ever mentioned, because it was only like he was so apparent there. But Purim was just the inverse.
Right.
Because there was a time when we deserved redemption, and a time when we shouldn't deserve, when we didn't deserve it. So, and that's kind of where he's looking at. Like, Purim time, we see here we really weren't deserving redemption. Hashem said, by redeeming us, though, we'd come back to him. But he wasn't going to go outright and redeem us through the miracles of Pesach. Whereas Pesach, okay, he felt we were worthy of it, whether we were or not, or whatever the reason was. And the miracles were just so apparent that it couldn't be denied that it was him.
Also, Moshe's face started glowing after this connection.
Right. Also, he had to put on a mask.
Yeah. So
the Jewish people could not take it, couldn't handle it, so they had to have a mask. So same principle over here. But anyways, it's just just to get all those pieces together and understand the world, the Torah, and the redemption. Those three steps are always given through the smoke screen, and that's the way that it has to. We see that's the way that it usually has gone so far. That's the way it goes. Okay, now getting to our subject with Hashem's help. Okay, we see we read the parsha, the portion of the week. We read it a couple of days ago. We see there are only 22,000 members of the all-star team of Am Yisrael. Who is the all-star team of Am Yisrael? Right, you got it. That's the tribe of Levi. The Levites, they are the all-star team of the Jewish people. They're the all-stars of the Jewish people. Okay, now, all eyebrows are raised. What in the world is going on here? If they are so special, we know that Levi, they are the top, they are the best. How could it be that such righteous people, they should have the most, right? They should have the greatest blessing, because they are the most righteous people. So therefore, their tribe should be the biggest tribe of all, because of their tremendous blessing. But we see the opposite is true. Okay, so let's start rolling here. Bezrat Hashem, Hashem should be with us. Let's start rolling here and see why is that. The Ramban, in last week's Parsha, he gives us three different answers. He gives us three very interesting answers. Number one, we know that the job of the Levites was, they were the barriers of the ark. And that is a very, very risky business. Which means, let's say you get into the ring. Let's say you get into the ring with like the number one boxer, in his weight division. Well, you better have the right. You better be a great boxer to get in that ring, or man, you're finished with. You don't go into the ring if you're not ready. Don't go into that ring if you're not ready. Okay? Same thing is, we know that Kadosh Baruch Hu warns us. Know who you are, know your good points, and know also your limitations. Because if you start putting yourself in a league which is not your league, you're going to get burned. And it ain't too pleasant. So, On one hand, a person has to always, we've talked about this, a person always has to have a dream. I have a dream that one day. We said, very interesting, first time I heard this was from an army officer named Efi Eitan. He says, very interesting, that the word chalom, if you take the Hebrew word chalom and you start juggling the letters, it comes out to lochem, fighting. It comes out to bread, lechem. What's the connection? They're all connected. If a person has a dream, chalom. If a person has a dream, then there's something to fight for. When what do we call when a person goes out to so-called make a living? What do we call that? It's called the fight. There's a word for it. There's it's a fight for a person's livelihood, right? Let's say you have a small store for 20 years, and all of a sudden one day you wake up and there's a sign across the street and it says, "Will be built here soon, Rami Levi." Oh my God, where is my makolet gonna go? Rami Levi, he's opening, of all places, why couldn't he open up somewhere else? It's just, it's a battle. The battle of making a living. So that's a battle too. The Torah tells us that it's difficult for a person's sustenance as it is to open up that Red Sea. Very difficult, not easy. Okay? Now, so we see a person always has to have an aspiration, because at least when you fall, you're going to fall in a good place. If you have no aspiration, when you fall, and you're going to fall, you're going to be, as they say, ala panim, on your face. So if you have aspirations that are high, when you fall, at least you're still high. But if you have low aspirations or no aspirations, when you fall, you're just going to hit bottom, rock bottom. So this is unbelievable. A person better be careful. When you step in the ring and you're not ready, you better be careful, because you can get pounded and you might lose your life. So a person has to remember their level that they are. A person has to remember who they are. Okay, so now, the most difficult task of any tribe was, of course, that of the Levites. They had to carry that ark. And that's the most holiest thing. Only once a year, the great Kohen Gadol would go into the holiest of holies where the ark was. And now these guys have to carry it from place to place to place. There were 42 stations in the desert. And they traveled, and it wasn't just 1 second, 1 day. They have to travel. In some places they stayed longer, some places it's a lot of traveling. So the Ramban says very simply, you know why there's not a lot of Levim? Because as soon as they were not on the proper level, as soon as they thought something that wasn't proper, as soon as they had some kind of machshava, some kind of thought, boom, they were zapped. That's why there weren't a lot of them. Okay. Second, the Ramban says, my second opinion is why they were not a lot. Maybe it's because of the curse of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu cursed 2 tribes, Shimon and Levi. And if you look at the amount of members of the tribe that Shimon has, if you look in our portion that we just read, Bamidbar, you'll see that they were not small at all. But if we go fast forward, we'll see that 24,000 Jews were killed because of the sin of the sinning with the women of Shittim. Who were those 24,000? You got it. From the tribe of Shimon. So we have to minus 24,000 from the number that we had this past week. So that's the second answer the Ramban gives. because of the curse of Jacob. Okay, his third answer is very interesting. We know that there was one tribe that did not have forced labor, were not subservient in Egypt. One tribe that they respected. That was the tribe of Levi. That was the tribe of Levi. I remember I was thrown into solitary confinement in prison because I refused to, after being sentenced, I refused to work. So I was taken, a day or two later, I was taken to the head of the prison. He says, what's going on? You're in solitary confinement. I said, listen, you're worse than Paro. He says, why? He says, because Paro had respect. Paro had respect. Just like today, in many places in the world, they do not draft people that are religious people that serve religion. So they say that the leader for the what was his name, Mao Zedong, he brought more people to yeshiva than Rav Amnon Yitzchak. You know, like sometimes these crazy leaders, when they go to world wars, so they bring more people back to yeshiva than rabbis do, in order to get out of the draft. But Baruch Hashem. So anyways, the Ramban says something unbelievable. The Ramban says, because of the fact that this tribe of Levi, they were not subservient, they did not have to go through forced labor, they did not receive the blessing that the people that did go through the hard labor received, which is every birth there were 6 kids. 6 kids, you know, like Bituach Leumi, the national insurance, they were going broke, Jack. Dow. Even though now they give peanuts. But they were going broke in that time, the national insurance of Egypt. You know, six a shot. But anyways, that's why the Ramban says the Jewish people were multiplied because of the fact that they suffered. So we know that Hashem rewards person, not a person sits in a class and he sat there for 1 hour and he understood one sentence. And a guy sat in a class for 1 hour and he understood it all. Who gets more reward?
The guy that only managed one sentence.
Shh, right on. The guy, because we don't care. You know, there's a lot of also computers. They call Google, some people call them Rabbi Google. You know what I'm saying? Like, Rabbi Google, give me the answer. You know, but who cares about Rabbi Google? There are people that where Hashem gave them tremendous gifts. And therefore, so what? Lefum tsara agra. The Torah teaches us something else. It's not the result. It is how much a person sweats, how much a person tried. That's what's important, not the result. Because there are people that are gifted, and their results are going to be very good. But they didn't have to do anything for that result. So big deal. So the Ramban writes that because of the fact that the Jewish people suffered, their reward is great. The tribe of the Levites did not suffer, so therefore they were kept in a regular mode of population. 3 answers by the Ramban. Thank you, Ramban. Okay, now there's a lot of guns. There's a lot of guns coming against the Ramban. Hold on, the Ramban. There's a lot of guns. But first, a Gewalt. An unbelievable chazal, the rabbis tell us, in this week's Parsha. You got it? Oh, no, I take that back. Excuse me. Last week's Parsha. We're on Bamidbar Rabbah. We're on 5a. It says in the last verse, second to last verse of the portion that we read last week, it says, do not destroy the tribe of the Levites. Why do we have to say that? because there's a big fear. Because of the fact that they have the most dangerous task of traveling with the Holy Ark, and because of the fact that they are so close to Hashem, therefore they are always judged with microscopic glass. So therefore they're in a big danger. So Hashem warns the tribe of Levites, be careful. I don't want to destroy you. Listen to this. We say every day in Tehillim, in our prayers, Hine ein Hashem el yireav la'atzil mimavet nafsham. Hine ein Hashem el yireav. Hashem is looking out for His fearful ones. Who are the fearful ones of the Jewish people? This is the tribe of Levi. Why? Because they are always praying for the grace of God, for the good grace of God. The rabbi said, I don't get it. The only tribe that's asking for chesed, for kindness from Hashem, is Levi? Of course, everybody, all the tribes, turn their eyes, lift up their eyes to Hashem, to look for Hashem's salvation. But more so than anyone is the tribe of Levi. Why? Because they do not have any part in the land of Israel. They don't have fields, they don't have bananas, they don't have mangoes, they don't have cucumbers, they don't have anything. They are dependent on the various charities that Hashem has arranged for them. They are the spiritual elite of the Jewish people. They have no part in the land of Israel, and therefore their eyes are more closer to Hashem. When a person has a field, they think that they're in control. They're wrong, but it's easy. When a person is making he's working in the stock market, Wall Street, or he's doing all kinds of things, it's very easy to believe that it's me. It's my tremendous wisdom that's bringing me all this wealth. But, what?
Geniosity.
Oh, geniosity. Okay, but Levi, they don't have anything. The tribe of Levi, they don't have anything in the land of Israel. And therefore they have to pray to Hashem that it will be a good year. Because if it's not a good year, they don't get all those trumot v'masrot that they receive from the produce of the land, the tithes, etc., the charities from the produce of the land, they're not going to receive. So they're really praying out there. Listen to this. This is unbelievable. When the Levites carried the ark, how did they carry it? There was 2 guys in the front, 2 guys in the back. This is an amazing thing. I didn't know this till this week, till last week's parsha when I went over this. The front guys...
Face backwards.
Yafeh. See, you went up on me, brother. The front guys, they went backwards. If you ever see people coming out of the koisel, you see many of them will not turn their back. Okay, when they leave the kotel, they go. Okay, they face the entire way. When they're walking backward, they walk backwards. Okay, until they get to the end of the runway there, in order not to, because we don't give. If you're a kohen, I don't know if there's any kohanim here.
Also, I heard another reason.
Yeah.
If they wanted to show the achdut that's between them, to build them both
face to face.
So they did that all the time.
Listen, how old are you?
Me?
How old are you? Listen, I wish I had. I wish at 14 I was coming up with remarks like that.
Holy apple, the energy.
Right on. Yafeh. Rabotai. This is unbelievable. Remember, like the science fiction movies. This is science fiction. How they stole this from the Jewish people. Listen to this. Listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how he would nail the enemies of the Jewish people. Listen to this one. Are you ready? Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Padat. It's very interesting that Rabbi Elazar ben Padat, he's talking about the tribe of Levis. Now, if anybody knows Rabbi Elazar ben Padat, we know that he was one poor rabbi. There's a lot of stories about him. He was tremendously poor. Unbelievably poor. Hashem tells Rabbi Elazar ben Padat that, listen, I would have to recreate the world one more time in order to give you Parnasa, baby. Think about that. I would have to create the entire world again in order for you to have some kind of sustenance.
Is that hot?
What? No. Zip.
Is it that hot?
What?
Is it that hard for God to give us
Because you have to change around the entire... Every person has a certain task that they have. And his task was to be Oved Hashem, to be a person that worships Hashem, that does Hashem's will in that situation. It can't be... He has to be that way. There's no way out of it. No, but Hashem says, even if I make it over again, it's not sure. It's not certain that Rabbi Elazar ben Padat. There's a famous line. In that sense, he's a loser. The famous Rabbi Ibn Ezra. Ibn Ezra was extremely poor. Ibn Ezra says that if he went into the field of when a person passes away, they put him into different cloths. What are those called? Shrouds. Yeah, there we go. He says, if I went into that business, people would stop dying. Why? Because he realized that his whole life purpose was to be poor. So if he went into the business of making these garments for the dead people, people would stop dying. So that's what he said. Those that didn't get the...
He had a lot of confidence.
You should have gone into it.
Okay, so listen to this. This is Star Wars here. Where's Dr. Spock? Hey.
That's Star Trek.
I'm saying this is Star Trek stuff.
This is Wars.
What?
It said Star Wars.
Star Wars. Star Trek. Yeah. All the same. Okay, listen to this.
I'm a nerd. It ain't the same.
Rav Elazar ben Padat says, "B'shah shayu yisrael nosin hayu shnei nitzotzim shel esh yotzim mitoch shnei badav shel Aaron. Kedei lifgo b'sonem shel Yisrael." This is unbelievable. Okay, imagine this. We got the poles, and we got the ark, and we got people standing. Now, between the shoulders, man, imagine this. Between the two shoulders of the guys in the back, two shoulders and the guys in the front, this fire, this ball of fire, I don't know what you want to call it, this mass weapon of destruction, just like flies out between the people. Imagine that, like someone just shot and like between two people's shoulders, like, oh my God. And that's how they would blow away the enemies of the Jewish people. I mean, this is like Twilight Zone here, like, pew! Now from that spark that went out between the poles of the ark, what would happen? These Levites would be also either injured, maimed, or killed because of it, because they were so close to it.
It's like a plasma energy. A photon torpedo.
The guys that would carry it?
The guys that would carry it would get burnt up, okay? And therefore, there weren't a lot of them. Listen to this. There's two opinions. What's going on? What's going on? You know, you read the newspapers. Well, I don't know if you like, but one of my favorite songs was Another One Bites the Dust, yeah, and another one down, and another one down. Every day they're reading the newspaper, you know, the Desert Times and the Palm Spring Times, and another, you know, a bunch of Levi'im, today their funeral, and the next day another bunch of Levi'im go down. Every day you're reading about, this is the headlines of the newspaper, the Levi'im. So what was the result? Listen to this. There's a dispute in Chazal. It says, Rabbi Elazar ben Padat b'shem Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra, mitoch shayta esh yotzet, ושורף אותם, היו מתמעטים, והיה כל אחד ואחד רץ ליטול שולחן, וזה מנורה, וזה מזבח, ובורחים מן הארון, מפני שהיה מזיק. והיה הקדוש ברוך הוא כועס עליהם, ושוב היו מתקלין. Unbelievable. What happens is, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Padat, when this was happening every day, or every couple of days, people, the Levim, started getting fearful. They started getting fearful. What did they say? We're not going to do this job anymore. So they started doing other people's jobs. They started running to carry the menorah. That's a safe job. They went to carry that, that table. Whoa, that's a good job. And Hashem sees that no one is willing to carry the Aron. So we have two strikeouts now here. One is the people that, when this weapon of massive destruction came out to destroy the enemies of the Jewish people, if those people that were carrying the Aron were not on the proper level, spiritual level, they were blown away themselves. They were burned out themselves. So now it's like a catch-22 situation. So now no one wants to do it, and now this is a disgrace to the Aron. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is killing more of them. Now you understand why there's so few of them.
It's interesting that Korach was not burned in that way.
One second. Oh, Mike is out there. Mike.
That's the best.
Oh, Mike is here. Yeah.
Well, the worst was
I volunteer.
The worst was from the tribe of Shimon, Mike.
Mike is a reincarnation of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman. Chas v'shalom. God forbid to say such a thing, that the tribe of Levites, our all-star team, Tafshin, blah, 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 the all-star team, Chas v'shalom, to say that they would run away from doing their job. Ela, אף על פי שהקדוש ברוך הוא מתמעט, היו נותנים נפשם על ארון. It was too much for Mike to sit and hear Rabbi Elazar ben Padat saying that they ran away from their jobs.
Why are they getting wet?
What?
Why are they getting cooked?
Listen, there's a lot of levels out there. There's a lot of levels, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we know there's a general principle in life, that with the righteous people, when the righteous people their neshamot were brought into the world, they complained to Hashem, and they said, we want the creation to go according to the letter of the law. Judgment, strict judgment. Breshit bara Elokim. Elokim, the name of God, Elokim, means strict judgment. But we know that Hashem, in the end, it created the world in a mixture of kindness and also judgment, called Rachamim. But still, the great rabbis tell us, till this very day and this very minute, the great righteous ones in every generation continue to live by what they accepted upon themselves. At the time of creation, when they were just souls, they accepted to be judged by Hashem by strict judgment. They accepted upon themselves. We have different standards, but they, the righteous, are judged extremely. Kechut hase'ara. You make one wrong move. Think about it. Just think about this one. The Rav Chaim Volozhin writes in his book Nefesh HaChaim that if a person thinks Ein od milvado Hashem hu Elokim, if a person concentrates on those two mantras, Hashem hu Elokim, Ein od milvado, there is no force in the world that can do anything to you. Someone could be in front of you with a gun, someone could be in front of you with a tank, someone could be in front of you with a car about to run you over. If your mind is 100% on Ein od milvado, Hashem hu ha'elokim, no one can do you damage. What's the problem? What's the problem? That if you ever thought of our minds go like this. Okay, right now I'm thinking that. Okay, now I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about Houston. Man, they have a lot of rain over there. Did you hear about that playoff game? The Rockets have a playoff game, and people slept in the stadium because they said it's too dangerous to go outside. And they're talking about, the Gentiles are talking about biblical rains. The Gentiles are saying these are biblical proportions. We've never seen what's going. That's the problem here. 1 second, buddy. If you're off, that same gun, that same car, the same tank, now he's on your face. Why? Because you took your mind off it for 1 second. It's not easy. It's not easy, grasshopper. It's not easy. It's not easy. You have to have 100%. You have to be there 100%. It's not easy. But you know, if you want to play in the All-Star game, you got to be the best. You got to try your best. So anyways, we see, unbelievable, that first of all, this is how the Jewish people fought the wars. They would have this secret weapon here, this fire, this massive, this weapon of massive destruction. And many of the Levim were affected by this, but they kept on with their jobs. They kept on with their jobs. Okay? And not an easy thing. Okay, anyways, we saw so far 3 reasons of the Ramban. The Abarvanel writes the following. Abarvanel, he brings down, he of course asks the question. He says, I can't understand. Zet Teimarav, this is a tremendous mystery. Shelo yiyu avdei Hashem v'yireav bruchim k'shar ha'am. How could it be that Hashem's top tribe, the Levites, are so small? How come they're not blessed? When you want a blessing, who do you go to? I mean, do you go to Pee-Pee? Do you go to, where do you go for a blessing? What? You go to the rabbis. How are they able to do that? How are they able to do it? Because they have the... I don't understand. So who are the rabbis? The tribe of Levi's are the rabbis. And they have 22,000 lousy people?
That's counting for 1 month old.
And that's counting for 1 month old. That's not even 20.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, very good.
It's not the quality, but the quantity. It's not the quantity, but the quality.
Oh, I like it. You're getting hot. You're getting hot over here. Yeah. You're warming up, bro. Okay, listen, very interesting. I know that the Haredim are not going to like this answer, but it's Abarvanel. We have to bring it. They're not going to like this answer, but listen to his very, very interesting answer. He brings down the Ramban, and the Rambam, he talks about how we spoke about the Ramban's answer that the ark, the holy ark, would destroy and kill many Levites. Then he brings down the Ramban's about the Jewish people were suffered, and therefore because they suffered they deserve a reward. The Levites did not suffer, so they don't deserve a reward. He says that's very good for a drasha. That's very good. That's not the simple explanation. We're looking for a simple, straightforward explanation. What is it? Listen to this. Aval Shevet Levi. Okay, listen to this. Li nire. Abarvanel says in his commentary on the Torah, the tremendous population boom, I think they call it the baby boom if I'm not mistaken, the tremendous boom of population within the Jewish people, we're not talking about Levites, we're talking about the regular population, this was a tremendous divine providence upon us. Why? Listen to this. The Abravanel says that if the Jewish people would have remained small, don't forget we came down to Egypt with only 70 people. 70 people. It's pretty small. And all of a sudden, within 210 years, man, we came out with 5 million people, according to the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim writes in his Perush on the Torah, it's commentary, he writes that were 5 million Jews that left Egypt. There's other opinions, even greater numbers than that. But it's enough, 5 million. 210 years. Think about that one. 210 years. So listen to what he says. Why was there tremendous divine intervention and providence here? Because of the fact, if we would have remained a small population, we could not be successful in conquering Eretz Yisrael. Straight out. We would not be successful in conquering Eretz Yisrael, and we would not be successful in working Eretz Yisrael, in working the land, because we're only a few. A person that has land and a person that works the land, they know how hard it is. I know that in Elon Moreh, people that have vineyards, they have to bring down yeshivas in the summer when the high schools, yeshiva high schools, are out on vacation. They bring down entire yeshivas to pick and to help out because they don't have enough hands. There's not enough hands, Jewish hands, in order to do this. So he's saying, in order to be successful in conquering, in order to be successful in working the land, in order to be successful to guard, to protect the land of Israel, we need a big population boom.
I don't think if I would know that there would be a waller, and it could be milk comes all over.
Also, as we know, the Torah says that you cannot remove the inhabitants, you cannot do it quickly because of the fact that if you do it quickly, the land will be too desolate, and then you have a problem where there's no people. Who comes instead? Wild animals come in. You come. Why don't you see too many? I mean, there's a lot of animals running around Jerusalem, but they're on twos. But why don't we see a lot of animals running around Jerusalem? Like, you don't see like a deer. Oh, hey, whoa, what was that? You know, I mean, what is that?
Well, actually, they just started a park. They started a park now, and they put deer back there.
No, that was
You ain't gonna see
that was right across the street.
on Ben Yehuda Street, baby. You ain't gonna see no bears and no deers, but you'll see here. You'll see if you look out here. You'll see all kinds of interesting animals running around here. Why? Because the population is not great. So the Torah tells us you can't throw out the nations until you're populated it enough, because you're going to have problems with the wild animals. So therefore, because of the fact that we needed a lot of Jews to conquer, to work, to protect the land of Israel, therefore Hashem made a tremendous miracle, and from people of 70 came this tremendous amount of peoples, like the stars in Shamayim. And this was a tremendous miracle. But, listen to this, very interesting. The tribe of Levites, who are they? We said that they do not work. They are the spiritual lights of the Jewish people. They do not work. They do not have fields. So therefore, who has to provide them?
We do.
Us. We do. So listen to what Abarvanel says. Abarvanel says, therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with his tremendous wisdom, he made sure that we would not have, you know how in many settlements, they only receive a certain amount of nebachim. They have a certain, on the Richter scale, they have a certain degree of nebachim. You guys know what nebachim are? People that are poor, people that don't really have a job. They only take a certain amount. Why? Because if they become too many, then the whole place becomes one kind of basket charity case. And instead of helping these people out, we get brought under. So listen to this. The Abarvanel says, in order that the Jewish people would not be burdened by so many people in the tribe of Levi that do not work, and they need these handouts, they need the Trumot and Masrot, so therefore he kept them with the birth control. Yeah, he kept on the birth control. He didn't make a lot of them. Well, Gewalt.
I have to admit that it's true, Rabbi, because in this yeshuv, the only people that tithe to me are Amos and Leah, and one of Mike's neighbors when it's not Shemitah, Ben Yehuda, from his garden.
See?
So I only have two people in this whole yeshuv that actually get it and come and give me gifts.
Folks, Abarvanel, I said the religious Haredi community, they're not going to like this Abarvanel. You know, and he says, okay. Anyways, I'm not going to keep you in suspense for next week. But the Kli Yakar comes out with, his machete on this Abarvanel. He was nice enough not to use his name. He says, V'yesh omrim. Listen to this. The Kli Yakar on last week's Parsha says the following. Yesh omrim. He doesn't say whose name. Kli Yakar lived almost 400 years ago. Almost 400 years ago. So he was talking about the Abarvanel. Yesh omrim shesibat shesibat miutam haya kedei shelo yitztarchu Yisrael lefarnes otam. There is an opinion, the Kli Yakar writes, that the reason why the tribe of Levi were so small, that was in order that the Jewish people would not have to provide charity to so many people, to so many poor people, like in the States today. I mean, everyone's like, the middle class has been destroyed. 46 million people eating on food stamps. Like, oh my God, it's like, there's no more middle class. It's just either you got it, or you don't got it, so it's not easy.
90 million unemployed.
Unbelievable. So listen. So Kli Yakar says, no way. He says, I do not accept this answer. Why? And he brings down a verse of the Torah. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need many or few in order to bring salvation. Kli Yakar, in the words of Rav Kahana, V'zeh Perush Yakar. This is a very special Perush. Kli Yakar says, Abarvanel, no way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for 5 million people, 10 million people, okay, if we count the Erev Rav, okay, for 10 million people, it's okay. He can provide for them. He could provide for them in a desert. That's no problem for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot make the tribe of Levi, instead of 22,000, 70,000. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot provide sustenance to the Jewish people. I mean, it's some kind of problem.
Hold on. I'm running through like 50 problems with it. First and foremost, the whole thing was, there was a huge issue before we entered Israel, that the spies were afraid that when we left Mitzrayim, we'd have to provide for ourselves.
Right.
There's a whole thing, we're supposed to provide for ourselves. We're not supposed to desire Hashem's sustenance like that. So that's problem A there, everybody's saying. They're supposed to be. So Hashem doesn't want people that necessarily require His for sustenance. He'd rather have people that can provide for their own sustenance and thank Him for that sustenance, realizing it's also for Him. 2, if there were more Levium that need to be sustained, that means that Hashem would either have to make fewer of, we'll say, the other nations that required tzedakah, or would possibly have to pay even more. Because the more Levium, theoretically, that takes away less tzedakah from others. There's very clearly a balance here. There's a problem.
I see you're from the. You must be a reincarnation of the Abarvanel over here. Abarvanel. First of all, okay, your question is definitely a good question, and to answer your very, very good question, we'd have to give you a lot of good answers, and that would take a lot of time. But just to understand that there's 2 roads in life. There's roads in life where the Jewish people are doing what they're supposed to do, and therefore, once we're doing what we're supposed to do, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care. Right? We had the special machloket between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and just to bring it back to the Gemara, what you're asking, we have a tremendous, on page 35 in the tractate of Brachot, there's a dispute between Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Does a person have to work or not to work? Okay, does a person have to work? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, no, you don't have to work. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai did not work. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was miraculously provided by a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And Rabbi Ishmael says, Ma pitom. Rabbi Ishmael says a person has to go out there. It says many people did like Rabbi Ishmael and were successful. Many people that did like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were not successful. Why? Because of what we said at the beginning of the class, that many times we're not on the level. If you try to play Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you might get burned. Okay? If you're not on the level of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So therefore you better be careful when you do these kinds of things. So therefore, the Torah tells us already that it depends. There's not really a dispute. The dispute is when Am Yisrael is not doing what Hashem wants. That's when there's a machloket. Therefore, Rabbi Ishmael says, when we're not doing what we're supposed to do, you better go out and you better work. Okay? But if we were doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do, then we would be living on the level of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. There would be no need to go out and do that. And that's why the Rambam writes that if a person would accept upon himself 100% what the tribe of the Levites came to accept upon themselves, that their whole essence would be just Torah, Hashem will 100% provide them. If a person is 100% honest and he's really sincere, Hashem will provide that person even if he's sitting down, etc. Most of us, it doesn't work. Most of us, Hashem wants us to, because of the curse of Adam and Eve, there's a need for us to go out and at least make some kind of effort. Okay, to be continued.